birds, people, and the dogs that bring them together. This is episode number 5. My name is Bill, and you're tied to the Woe Post. Today I'm talking to Jake Perry, owner and operator of Superior Upland, and the Michigan ambassador to the Bird Dog Society. But first, I need to thank my partner Embark's research-grade genotyping platform. It tests over 230 health risks in 350 breeds using 230,000 different genetic markers. I don't know much about all that, but I know it helps me as a breeder provide you with the best bird dogs that I can. If you're interested, there's an affiliate link in the description. As always, if you want to contact me, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at The Woe Post, or through email at bill@thewoepost.com. And if you want to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/thewoepost and become a patron. Jake, how's it going?
It's going good, my man. How are you?
Doing great. It's good to see you, brother.
It hasn't been that long.
Well, it's still good to see you, though.
I know, man. It's always good to see you, too.
Right on. All right. I like to start every podcast with 3 lightning round questions. All you have to do is just say the first answer that comes to your mind, try to make it as quick as possible, and try to keep it G-rated, okay?
All right. I'll try my best.
Okay. If you go beyond G-rated on any of these questions, you got some serious mind issues, though. All right. First question. If you had to pick one state to hunt for the rest of your life, what would it be?
That'd be Michigan.
Michigan. Everybody says that the state that they live in, except for Rose Danaher. She said Nebraska. All right. So why Michigan?
Dude, just the variety of land and like where I live in the Upper Peninsula. I mean, I'm going to live up here my whole life and I'm never going to be able to not find another place to go. So that's why, I mean, there's just the variability and I can go find a new spot of public pretty much any day I want to. So that's why I think the variability and just discovering new terrain and new pockets. And that's why I'll always hunt it. And I can do everything up here. I can hunt grouse. I can hunt woodcock. I can take and go hunt deer, bear. I mean, I'm a trapper, so I can trap too. I mean, it's got everything I need, man.
What do you trap?
So I used to be a nuisance trapper for the city of Ishpeming, which is out by my house. I did that for 3 years through the Michigan DNR, and I used to trap beavers for them. So I used to do a lot of water trapping, a lot of beavers. You'd occasionally have bycatch of river otters. So.
Did you grow up trapping? Do you have somebody to show you when you were a kid, or?
I honestly learned about 6 years ago for the first time. One of my buddies taught me. It's something I'd never really done. I always grew up bird hunting and deer hunting and all that stuff, but I'd never really been into trapping. Kind of the region where I grew up in. And one of my buddies, Trevin, took me under his wing and kind of showed me the way.
Right on. I think trapping is one of those things that if you don't have somebody to show you, it's going to take a long time to figure it out. It's not like hunting where if you screw something up, you can usually figure it out right away because you're going to see an interaction with an animal. Trapping, if you screw it up, you just go to set, or check your line the next day and you either don't see something, there's nothing there, or the trap is set and, or not set, but tripped. And you don't know why. You don't necessarily know why. You just have to try and figure something else out. I tried it 2 seasons in a row, completely unsuccessfully, but none of my traps were ever tripped. They were just never touched. So who knows what I did wrong?
It's so many variable things. I think the biggest thing is you got to try and think like a critter that, like for you tried for 2 years. You've never trapped them before. So you're still processing on how they think. It's not like a bird. It's a completely different animal. And I think having a buddy was the best way to take and do it, although it stunk. He called it trial by ice is what he called it. We would cut holes with axes through the ice, and then we'd hop down on waders and feel for their runs, and then put our conibears right on the bottom on their runs down there, and that's how we were trapping them. So get off that a lot and food bed stuff. Yeah, so we trap through the ice. It's what we do when we can't bird hunt or run rabbits anymore. We trap through the ice. So
right. Yeah, I was trying to trap coyotes, so I think a little different. I don't know much about beaver. I don't know much about trapping at all. So
trapping a dog is one of the harder things to do, man.
Well, I don't feel so bad about it then.
No, you got to take and do so many different things. I mean, you got to take and use gloves and not touch the dirt you're using it and cover it. And you got to really be worried about scent. Dogs are one of the harder things to trap. It's like bobcats and dogs are hard to trap. So
We can't trap. Well, we can't do anything with bobcats here in Indiana. I know sometimes you trap some non-target bobcats and you gotta release them, but they're off limits here.
really,
Oh yeah.
I had no clue. We're allowed one a year up here, but it's pretty stringent, and you got to take and actually apply for the tag before the actual trapping season starts and stuff. Otherwise, you don't get a tag.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, they're still pretty stringent about it, and it's highly regulated animal, and all their furs have to be sealed and stuff, just like otters, and DNR has to check them out. So we're allowed to trap them up here, but it's one of those things that they gotta check, and they're pretty thorough about.
That's pretty cool. There are rumors that we might be able to start trapping them pretty soon, but no legislation that's been approved yet.
So do you guys have them more like in like prairie type settings down there? Like,
Yeah. So where I live, it's all woods, and then if you get 3 or 4 miles from my house, it's all agriculture. So they live where they can in the whatever timbers on the farms, and then in the larger tracts of woods. I think I see them 2, 3, 4 times a year when I'm deer hunting. But and I saw one roadkill bobcat the other day. So they're not that uncommon. I hear them from time to time, particularly when they're mating. You can hear them for long ways, but they're not common like coyotes for sure.
oh yeah, they're cool though, man. Anytime, even the coyotes, man, they're cool. They're all cool. I mean, granted, they got to be controlled, but they're cool, man. The predators are cool, especially the bobcats when they're screaming. They'll raise the hair on the back of your neck
Oh
if you don't
yeah.
know what you're listening to.
Yep. Right on. All right. If you had to pick one animal to hunt for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Woodcock, man.
Woodcock. Why woodcock?
Dude, I've got a soft spot in my heart for them, man. I think there's just something almost like innocent about how they play with dogs. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll come up and let a dog play them and point them, and it's almost like a fun game. And a majority of it, I think the memories that I have with my dogs, a majority of their first points are on woodcock, man.
Right.
So yeah, so I think some of my most joyous memories with my dogs are with woodcock, and I think that's kind of just been the allure to them. And when they come down here, they come down in masses, man. Like they just come down by the thousands. So it's like they're here and then they're gone, and it's just one of that magical things that happen. I'd have to say woodcock. I just got a smart. I got a small spot in my heart for them, man. It's just really warm, and I love them, man. They're such a cool little bird.
So how do you cook them?
It depends if I'm getting a migratory or one that's kind of been a little bit more native. If I get one that's migratory and you can tell it's got a fat layer on it, they're normally the bigger birds. If it's migratory and I'm catching them right when they're coming down migratory, I just salt and pepper them and then brown them in butter in a cast iron skillet for about 2 minutes on each side, medium rare. Tastes pretty similar to duck. It's really good that way. If I get one that's native, I actually take and make pho out of them, like Asian style pho soup with the noodles, and I'll take and dice them up and cook them in pho. And I found that that's a really, really good recipe to eat them as well. So,
Oh, right on. I haven't heard that one yet. So that kind of goes into the next question. So what's your favorite wild game recipe?
uh, my favorite wild game recipe, I use it for pheasants and for rough grouse. And I take and make a white wine sauce that I take in. So what I do is I take bacon. You always start out with bacon, usually about a half pound of bacon. I cube it up. You cook that down so you get the bacon grease, which is going to give you your fat layer. You take and throw in your vegetables in it. So whether it's potatoes or onions or whatever you want to throw in, garlic, throw that in there, let it cook in the bacon fat for a little bit, and you throw in a cup of white wine until that reduces down and deglazes that pan. And then when that reduces down, you cannot smell any alcohol coming off it anymore. You just throw a cup of heavy cream in there, man. And then you just sear your breasts on each side for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and let them rest, and serve that over long grain rice or orzo, man. And it is phenomenal.
That
So
sounds pretty good. I'm gonna
yeah,
try that one. I was taking mental notes as you said it.
I'll take and send you the recipe, man. It's good.
Oh, that'd be great. Yep. I'm doing that one next fall. Might do it with some sharp tail.
All right, I'll tell you what, it'll work for them too, man. It's just a
Yep.
good meal. It's a little bit rich, but it's a great meal at the end of the day.
All right. So I saw you at Pheasant Fest just this past weekend, and I saw you with a new puppy.
Yeah, Gordy.
So before we go any farther, we got to talk puppies. So let's hear about Gordy.
I got Gordy about a month and a half ago. He's from Darkwood Gordon Centers, so Debbie Peterson up in Minnesota. She works at Pine Ridge Grouse Camp and then guides there. So I got him out of her stud, and then it was Dean Denwee's female, which her name was Annie. So I got him to Bogey and Annie pup, and I'll tell you what, man, he has been the coolest little treat ever. I always said I'd never be a setter guy until I got the opportunity to get one. So
He's what, about 14 weeks old now?
he just turned 4 months old at Pheasant Fest.
Okay,
So
so yeah, so 16 weeks.
yeah.
He was pretty chill every time I saw him.
Oh, I've got the coolest principal in the world. She lets me. I'm a school teacher on top of guiding and stuff, and she lets me bring him right to school and hang out with the kids. So he
Oh
was pretty
wow.
desensitized. We call it Gordy Fridays. He comes in on Fridays at my school, and so he's pretty desensitized to kids and stuff. I think the hardest part was seeing the 60 different breeds of dogs that were there. So,
Well, I bet the kids hate Fridays, huh?
oh, dude, they love it. I've got my whole fridge is just covered in Gordy pictures right now.
That's awesome. He's a cool little dog. I'm
Yeah,
excited to see what he does this next fall.
just super laid back. And I mean, but he's also, I think they really hit it on the knob with that breeding they had, man. I mean, he's got a ton of prey drive, but he's also smart and just listens. So actually his AKC name that I registered him was Darkwood's One Time Gordy is his name, because I tell him to do something one time and he just does it. So
Nice.
so that's his AKC name. But
Right on. Puppies are awesome. So, all right, now we got the important part out of the way, puppies. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Jake Perry, we met at grouse camp, sitting at the table. Sorry for any bad behaviors I may have been partaking in, but I'm a talker. But name's Jake Perry. I live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Guide full time. I own Superior Upland. When I'm not guiding, I work in the school systems, try and get back to the kids. And yeah, we guide rough grouse and woodcock in September and October. Give the birds time off in November and December. Once the snow comes, I don't really hunt them with dogs anymore, and just kind of try and give them their peace. But yeah, so that's what we do full time. Superior Upland. We train bird dogs in the summer as well. I own a hunting preserve, so yeah.
Right on. And you grew up in UP?
So I grew up in Lower Michigan, but my dad's family, so my grandpa, his dad, and my grandma, her family, they're all from up here. So I've got over between my dad's side, I've got over 100 years of history up here. So I've been up here. Shoot, I'm 27. I've been up here 21 years of my life. So I think I started coming up full time when I was 4 or 5 years old. Hanging out with the grandpa at deer camp, my dad at deer camp, coming up in the summer times, hanging out at their places. So yeah, I've been up here on and off my whole life.
And you hunt everything up there, or you try and stick with birds?
I deer hunted for a long time, did that, and then it's kind of gotten hard the last couple of years. It's been tough with habitat. It's been tough with predation. There's a couple different people are trying to blame it on the wolves. That's a topic that I don't necessarily agree with. I think that there's another predator up here that's causing more harm in a couple months span than the wolves are. But it's just one of those things where deer hunting's kind of gotten tough. I mean, I usually get my deer every year. We're blessed to have a really good property. But I mean, I'm just obsessed with hunting birds full time. That's what I love. I really love hunting rough grouse. I really love hunting woodcock, and I love watching the dogs work. So
You do any waterfowl hunting up there?
I did early teal season this year. Did that with one of my buddies. Got a couple teal. But I mean, that's right around September 15th. And when September 15th hits, man, I'm chasing old rough through the aspen thickets, man.
Right on. I can't blame you, especially, if you got a good dog, you got some friends, you could be moving around and covering some ground rather than sitting there. I mean, I used to be a diehard bow hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only reason I sit in a tree stand is to put meat in the freezer.
Yep. I agree with that 100%, man. I used to be really particular, like I said, growing down Lower Peninsula, like you can be really particular on the deer you shoot down there because there's so many of them. But up here, I mean, I see three on the side, and like you said, it's going in the freezer. If it's a decently mature buck, if it's 2.5 years or older, I'm going to be pulling the trigger on it.
Just gets it done so you can get it back out in the birds, right?
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, our age class of deer, they're 2.5 years old. If you see a 3-year-old deer up here, it's like a big rarity. They don't usually
Unicorn.
Oh yeah, it's a unicorn. And that's the thing too, is that I will say about the area where I live, that if you do shoot a 3-year-old deer, their genetics, they will get big if they get over 3 years old, but it's finding a deer that's over 3 years old is the problem. So yeah, so it's a unicorn between the snow and the predation and everything we got going on. So like you said, I just put meat in the freezer and get back out with the dogs, man.
I'm the same way. Although this year I didn't get a deer until the last weekend of deer season. And my son and I went out and duck hunted, and I brought my bow with me, and that's why we got a deer.
Really?
You got to be ready.
I got a buddy that he's downstate in Lower Michigan, and he takes a canoe in on all the swamps and sloughs and stuff. He's a big public land hunter downstate, and that's how he shoots his deer every year, and he packs them out in a canoe.
Here in Indiana, I think I kill more other things when I'm duck hunting than I do ducks.
Really?
We're not Mecca for waterfowl.
Well, that's up here for turkeys. I think this is one of the most underrated places to go turkey hunting in the whole country because nobody hunts them up here. And so every time I go out turkey hunting in the spring, it's usually when I'm brook trout fishing. So because they kind of coincide with each other. So if I'm brook trout fishing and I hear a tom gobble, it instantly turns into a turkey hunt, and vice versa. So if I'm turkey hunting, it's not going any good, then I'll pop back down to the creek bottom and go fishing for brook trout again.
Little surf and turf.
Little surf and turf action, man. That's how I got my tom. Oh gosh, when I get 2 years ago, I got tom. I got tom that way. I was surfing turfing, and I got him that way. It's the nicest tom I ever shot in my life too. Definitely thought he was a DNR setup tom because he was just this big immaculate tom standing in the middle of a sand pit just doing this. And yeah, that was but yeah, I got him because I was brook trout fishing. So yeah, I ended up shooting him with my bow.
Right on. That's pretty cool. We got to work on them a little bit harder down here, but we got some big turkeys here. So much agriculture that they grow pretty big.
Oh yeah, and they probably get a lot more pressure than we get up here because of how remote we are. So
it depends on the property.
Okay.
On public land for sure. Private land, sometimes you're the only person hunting that property.
That's so cool.
It's not bad as long as you can get access to the private property.
There's many ways to go about that.
Yeah. It's got to make friends. That's all. So, all right. So when we spoke at Pheasant Fest, you mentioned that you are the Michigan ambassador to Bird Dog Society.
Yeah. Yep. It's a new role I got within the last month.
So can you tell us about Bird Dog Society?
So they're a nonprofit. They're in their second year of formation. They started out in the Carolinas. This is where they're based, where a lot of their members live. But I got kind of linked up through them. I guided a gentleman this year up in the Northwoods. His name's Rob Moore, terrific ambassador of bird dogs and the history and the culture and the lore. He's a fantastic writer. So he came up, we had a great time up in the Northwoods, really successful trip. And he reached out to me a couple months ago about the nonprofit that they were looking to expand. And he recommended that I apply for their ambassador program. And I was selected. And so here I am. I was at Pheasant Fest helping them out. So it was awesome.
And what do you do as a state ambassador?
So it's kind of like what an engagement coordinator would be for any company or any other nonprofit. So, I'm in charge of taking and generating memberships in my area, getting people involved, spreading the message of what the Bird Dog Society is, and trying to improve their mission in my state. So,
and then what sorts of things do they offer to bird dog owners?
So kind of what they're trying to do is provide resources and the ability for people to have a group of people to rely on, or the resources to help develop their own bird dogs or find them. The mission statement is to promote the physical and mental well-being of bird dogs and their owners everywhere, right? So what they're trying to do is if you have a bird dog, say you're someone that ends up getting a backyard GSP, you're struggling with the energy, not knowing how to give them an outlet. They help provide the resources the events, the abilities for you to find something to help harness that. So you don't end up as a rehoming process of your dog. They want to take and help prevent that at all costs.
I love that because, not all breeders are created equal. Not all breeders are supportive to their puppy buyers. Some are very transactional, and once that transaction's over, you might never hear from them again. So having an organization like Bird Dog Society that provides support, particularly to inexperienced first-time owners, owners of adopted dogs and things of that nature, I think is awesome. It keeps people active in our community.
Yeah, and I think it keeps people involved, and then it also makes them realize that that this can go so much further than just the ownership of a pet, right? That they can have a job, they can have a purpose, and you can help enjoy that purpose with them. And I think that's the coolest thing, that when you realize that with a dog, there's nothing better than that in the world. Like when you can see that your dog's excited and has a job, whether it's getting shed antlers or taking and going out bird hunting or duck hunting. I mean, finding them an avenue that they're passionate about. I mean, that's the most transformative experience as a dog owner.
Our hunting culture is not getting any bigger. It seems like it's waning. Not to get all pessimistic on this, and we'll try to avoid getting political. I got a little bit political in the last podcast. Try to try to do that. I'm passionate about this. It is important to preserve our hunting culture and heritage. If we end up with bird dog owners that are frustrated, they feel disenfranchised, and a bird dog turns into a pet, we're not doing ourselves any favors. At the end of the day, this is about people. This is a community, a culture built on people. The culture is not built on the dogs. I love my dogs. I used to say I like dogs more than I like people. I don't think I was around the right people, and I don't think I was personally in the right place. Being in a better place and being around better people makes me like people more than I like dogs, which you should, right? And that's part of the reason why I started this podcast, is because this is about building a community of like-minded, good people that all want to support each other. And that sounds like what Bird Dog Society is doing.
That's 100% it, man. I love how you took and phrased that, right? I mean, so often we get caught up in the dogs because they're the end product of everything we do, but there's a lot of people who lose themselves along the way, right? And I think the more people that we can take and get along and mentor the right way and get them pulled into understanding things and understanding the people better is going to help us as we move into the future. I love how you put that, man. That was awesome.
Well, thanks. I've been rehearsing that. No, I'm just kidding. So, was that your first time at Pheasant Fest this past weekend?
That was my first time at Pheasant Fest, yeah.
And mine too. So, what did you think?
I thought, I mean, it was a little overwhelming. I mean, I knew it was big, but I've been to the SCI shows and stuff, but I mean, it rivals the SCI shows, man. I mean, it was just big, and there were so many vendors there. It was just the overall scope of it and the magnitude of it was just something I wasn't expecting. But I mean, almost everybody I met there was a good person, and they were happy to be there, and they were willing to engage in conversation and stuff. I mean, it could have been the puppy. I don't know, but everybody there seemed awesome, man. I can't think of one bad interaction I had at Pheasant Fest. It was just a good time.
No, I agree. I think, the arena that we were in with all the dogs was crazy. It was packed with people the whole time. And if you had a dog in front of you, you better be ready to talk to people, because that's what it seems like what everybody came to do.
Yeah, there were so many people there, and I couldn't believe it how many people have brought their kids to get first time dog contacts, right? And one of the things that I thought was funny that a parent said to me, I had a parent that stood there for about 20 minutes and let their kid pet Gordy and hang out with him and stuff. And what they said was, they're like, we're just so surprised that we've been here and we haven't heard one dog bark yet. And I looked at her
dogs.
And I said, they're bird dogs. And I said, and frankly, there's a lot of trainers here. And if someone's dog starts barking, it ain't going to look good.
I think I did hear a dog bark one time, and I instantly had judgmental thoughts going through my head.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't in the only boat on that one, man. I was praying the whole time that Gordy wasn't going to start yelping or crying or doing something like that.
Probably blame it on a short hair.
Blame it all on the Germans, right?
Yeah. Did you get much of a chance to break out from your booth and go explore?
Yeah, I got to go up and get out a couple times because, potty breaks and all that stuff. Got up a couple times, got to walk around, got to meet some really good people. Really, I probably say the people that I met there were the best people were the Bird Dogs of the Day guys. Those guys were awesome dudes. I just took and talked to them. They were great. They were willing to give you their time. Really enjoyed my interactions with them. And then the general public. I mean, I had a puppy, so I couldn't walk more than 5 feet without having someone stop to pet him. But I mean, it was it was just the general public, man. I mean, it was such a good event. Like I've been to a lot of those shows and that just felt warm and welcoming, I guess, is how I can describe it the best. I'm definitely going to be going back next year. So,
I loved the questions that I was getting from people, and I was really surprised how many inexperienced, maybe potential future dog owners were there asking questions about each individual breed. I had a handful of people, maybe five or more, ask, what should I look for in a dog? People would say, oh, there's so many different types of bird dogs. I had no idea there were this many breeds. So how do I pick a breed? And I think being able to talk people through that process of, well, first of all, you've got a great opportunity to see a bunch of them right here. You'll only have this once a year probably. So this is your first start, right? And then your internet research and talking to friends that maybe are more experienced, find the facts behind the dogs. But then once you find a breed, it's equally or possibly more important to find a breeder, the right
yes.
breeder for you that's going to offer you the support that you need. And then from then on, like we all know the process, from there. But having that opportunity to talk people through that face to face and answer that questions, I found incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thing. I think I told you before we did the podcast, I've always been a sucker for a sob story. So all of my dogs that I've gotten before, I mean, they've been from good lines, but they've been, a dog that didn't pan out in training or a puppy that was an accidental litter. That's what my dogs have always been, right? And I think the biggest thing that I was able to, for the same people who asked me that question is I went through the process this time of being involved with a good breeder, not a good breeder, a great breeder, right? The genetic testing, the understanding the temperament of the parents, understanding the expectations, and then having that resource to lean on, man. I told them, I said, there's no other way I'd do it the rest of the time I do it. I saw a thing today on Facebook that said the only thing keeping puppy mills in effect is the American public, right? I think that there's a better way to do things rather than getting and granted, some of the backyard pups you get can be some of the greatest bird dogs you ever had in your life, right? But the biggest piece of advice that I was giving them was make a relationship with a breeder after you identify a breed and really, really educate yourself on who they are and what their kennel represents. And I think that was the biggest thing that I was communicating to people because I just went through that process for the first time of actually going through a breeder, understanding pedigrees, and knowing what I wanted. So that was, like you said, that was probably the biggest thing that I communicated to them.
Absolutely. A good breeder can offer you more support than you'd ever think you'd need.
Oh, I was on the phone with her for 3 hours on the way home, just telling her how Gordy did. Like you said, he was so chill, hanging out. And I was just telling her, I told her, I said, whatever you guys did with this pairing, you guys got to do it again because this puppy is just phenomenal. So,
Yeah, he's such a cool dog. I know I was guilty of stopping you at least twice when you were trying to go somewhere so I could pet your dog.
yeah. Yeah.
All right. So last fall's hunting season, how'd it go?
We had a really successful guiding season. It was better than I expected. Let's put it that way. We ended up guiding. So season started on September 15th. I didn't guide before September 15th, kind of give my covers that rest. Went to grouse camp, met you there,
Mhm.
had a couple barley pops, took some people out hunting, and had a blast at that. Made some good connections there. I actually had one of the gentlemen that I took him was his mentor. He's coming up to do my personal grouse camp with me this year. So just I think this fall was all about connections, but this year we averaged in the Upper Peninsula where I'm at. The official statistic was it was 28 to 45 grouse flushes a day we were getting. Lowest was 28 that we had. Highest was upper 40s. Woodcock, we didn't really see woodcock because of how warm it was until that week of October 19th, 20th. somewhere in there. And then when they came in, man, I mean, you had to drag your dog out. It was just, we ended up, I had a client from Ohio this year, and you know how the Southern Ohio, Southern Indiana accents are. And never had a client look at me and go, "Hey man, I've shot at enough birds today." Like that's how it was when that woodcock migration came through this year, man. That's what it was like. But the grouse numbers were awesome. We've had a super mild winter here this year. So I'm expecting us to have a really good year again. As long as nesting season goes okay.
Right. The spring can be just so important for these birds. It seems like you can make up for a bad winter with a good spring pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they've got favorable weather, and I think that was part of last year too, was it was pretty dry up here for a long time. We didn't get those spring rains like we normally get. I think that really helped them out with their hatching and not having chicks die on the nest. And so I'm praying that that happens again this year, because if it does, I mean, I can still go out in the woods right now and the birds are fat, they're healthy, they're looking good. So I'm hoping that we have a good nesting season, because if we do, man, I'm going to be stoked for October.
Now, do you get out and do some hunting for yourself, or are you just mostly doing your own hunting while you're guiding?
I don't carry a gun when I'm with clients normally. When I'm there, I'm a big dude about experiences. And you know me, I like joking around. I mean, I love joking. I love having fun. It's my job to facilitate your experience, right? And I think that's what any good guide will tell you. I feel like if you're carrying a gun with your guys, unless they ask you to carry a gun, it's not all about killing birds. And I think the sooner that you realize that, the better experiences, and like you said, the better relationships and better groups of dudes you're going to be able to take in, or women to pull around you and have around you. But I ended up hunting. I think I had 3 days off that I got to hunt myself. So ended up doing pretty good. I think I shot 3 days hunting this year. I think I ended up taking 7 grouse and 4 woodcock. Just, and for me, it's not about shooting a ton of birds.
Right. No, absolutely. Just about your time in the woods.
Yeah, and that was part of it. I got older lab, Max, and that was probably his last year that he was gonna. He's a flusher, and it was probably his last year that he's gonna hunt. So got to get him out, get a couple birds over him, and it was a good time. He looked at me about an hour in, and you could tell, and he's still in shape, but you could tell he looked at me like, "Hey, Dad, I ain't got the tank like I used to have."
Right.
So
Right. Have you always run flushers on grouse?
no, no, I've got German short hairs, and then I've got Gordy, and then also wire hair that I take and run.
Okay.
I really prefer pointing as opposed to flushing. But Max, he's funny. Max was my dog I got in college when I was in college. He was my first dog, and I got him approved as a therapy animal for the school. So I had to take him to, dorm room meetings and that sort of stuff. But really, what it was for was to have my bird dog with me at school. So how it ended up being is I ended up having my bird dog at school with me full time. Worked out really well, especially when I moved up the Upper Peninsula. Me and my buddies would be like, "Hey, you guys want to go hunting after class?" And we'd just take and bop Max out, and we'd go bird hunting, and it was great, man. So I figured out a way to take and have a bird dog at school, and that's kind of how he started out as a flusher. And then I got my first pointer of my adult life was Bear, which is my German short hair. So
I don't think I've ever personally seen anybody run a flusher for grouse. And I know up at grouse camp, I don't remember seeing any flushers up there at all.
no, it's tougher to hunt with them. There's a lot of locals up here that run flushing dogs. They're typically people that I mean, it's fast and furious. You're going to get a couple shots. That's what's going to be. There's a lot of people that hunt them in northern lower with flushers. There's a couple people up here that hunt them, but primarily it's pointing dogs for grouse, right? I mean, they are such a hard bird to hunt. They're such a hard bird to pin down. If you've got a flushing dog, it's hard to control them in that cover. It's hard enough to hunt them with a pointing dog that can pin them down within 30 yards of you. It's even harder if you got a flushing dog that's running around and all of a sudden there's just one flying in your face. You got kamikaze grouse and kamikaze woodcock flying everywhere. And so I like it because I'm young. I can crash brush, and Max is getting a little bit older. But what we used to do primarily with him was waterfowl hunt pheasants, that sort of stuff. So
I would imagine keeping up with a flusher through a heavy grouse cover could be pretty challenging.
you probably have to have the most indestructible pair of brush pants ever designed. Hey, if you're gonna crushing after a flusher and aspen and hawthorn bushes and stuff, man. It can be really nasty in there.
Right on. All right, Jake. Hey, look, I really appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming on here. It's always great to catch up with you. I'm going to give you a chance to go ahead and wrap it up with a closing statement.
Oh man, a closing statement. Do you want a quote? Do you want something to live by?
The world's your oyster, man. Go for it.
The world's my oyster, man. Oh gosh. Thanks for having me on, man. If you guys ever want to get in contact with me, Superior Upland's my business. And remember, life's a garden. You got to dig it, man.
That's awesome. And where can people contact you?
They can contact me through email, superiorupland@gmail, or you can contact me via my social media pages, which is Superior Upland.
Right on. All right, brother. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. Always a pleasure.
Well, I hope you enjoyed a much shorter episode number 5 of the Woe Post. If you'd like to support me, head on over to patreon.com/thewoepost. You can contact me on Facebook or Instagram @thewoepost, or through email bill@thewoepost.com. Stay steady and God bless.